Bill Belmont saw it all. Bill, I think we got some of the audio problems worked out.
Is that better?
Much better.
I just got a lot of the soot in my throat, so I'm going to talk up now.
Sure, I understand. Take us back to that moment.
Well, first, like I said, when I got there, investigative attorney with Pinkerton Consulting, we do crisis management, and we were trying to get to the command center to see if we can assist in what was done. It seemed that the command center was put over at Battery Park, so I had worked my way to the west side of the building. And there's a pedestrian overpass that goes from Battery Park over to the financial center. And that's where the emergency personnel were setting up to make their entry into the building.
And then?
There was a lot of, it was just police, fire, and volunteer ambulance that were there setting up. We were helping get the packs up and bridge off into the teams.
You know, Bill, I heard these stories from a lot of our people who were down there, and from some of my friends, for that matter, of people coming in nearby buildings. Folks got to realize there are towering skyscrapers all around this in which people make their homes. They're little boxes of apartments, and it's my understanding that people came pouring out of those buildings to start trying to help their neighbors as they could. Set the scene of that.
People moved out well. There was a good evacuation done from the World Trade Centers in Battery Park City, but you got to remember, Battery Park City has the water. So you only have so far that you can move to the western end, and that's where stuff is lining up. And I don't think our reaction was that the buildings would fall, and that's why we maintained under the pedestrian overpass, which is only about 100, maybe 150 yards from the first building.
I don't think anybody was thinking the buildings might fall. We'd been told that these buildings were tested for a 707 and all of that. I mean, good grief, of course we didn't think it was going to fall. The fire trucks and the cops were right under there. As that thing started to collapse,
there was, when it began to come down, as you've heard Commissioner Safer indicate, the bomb squad was in, fire personnel, ambulance personnel had entered. About 15 minutes after they made their entry, we heard a boom. I don't know if that was the infrastructure that was going or another explosion, and we looked up, and it, you know, I can't even describe it. It's not even like a movie. It was so surreal. It just came towering towards us. It seemed in slow motion. We all just tried running. Unfortunately, many of those emergency personnel were much closer to the building when the debris came. We tried running to a building for cover. I took some injuries to the back of my head and my hands from some of the debris. And then we were just in darkness. We initially thought that we were trapped under the building or under the debris because it was so dark. Face, nose, mouth covered with not just soot, but the concrete from the building. That's what we were feeling. Some of the fire personnel, I was lucky enough to have some ESU and fire personnel around me. We built up a chain, try to grab anybody we could and try marching ourselves south. But because of the darkness, and I mean total black darkness for a good 5 or 8 minutes, we weren't sure which way to go. We just kept encouraging each other to stay together, to stay alive, to keep pushing ourselves to get away from whatever direction it was blowing in.
Bill, it's been estimated that there were about, or there should have been about 45,000 people in the building at 9 o'clock in the morning. Did you get a sense for how many of those might have had a chance to get out of those buildings, especially the tower number 2 before it was hit, and both of them before they collapsed?
When I arrived first on the scene, it had to be about 9:20, and there was a good amount of evacuation that had taken place. But as you've heard earlier from many of your spokespersons, there were people just jumping from the building, some might be having no choice. You would watch their bodies splatter onto the cars. At that point, by about 9:30, there was not that many people continuing to leave the building. They seemed to have done a good job of getting those initial ones out, and people were just trying to get themselves beyond the perimeter. But still, there was the bodies coming from the sky was just devastating to watch.
You know, Bill, I'm actually kind of glad you mentioned that. We showed some still pictures in the last hour of people coming out of those buildings. Our viewers need to know we have videotape that we are not putting on air for reasons which should seem quite clear. But we showed those pictures to try and bring some clarity to what happened here. Imagine on the 92nd floor of the World Trade Center, and it's so bad that you jump to your death. Well, yeah, those still pictures worth seeing.
If I can try to articulate it without having to show those pictures, you have to imagine that some of those people were trapped in areas where there was fire, where there was smoke. Some were probably trying to lean outside the areas that were hit just so they can get clean air at some point, some were going to be burned, continue to be burned and not have a choice. Others would realize they were breathing in the air and not have much of a choice. But when you see those bodies, first you see the debris coming down, and you think it's just debris, and then all of a sudden you see something that looks a little bit different, and it falls out of the building like a doll, and then it smacks against the towers as it comes down, and then when you see it hit a lamppost and shatter, it'll explain why, as you've heard some of the other viewers talk about, the anger that people will have.
Bill, our thoughts will be with you and yours. Take good care. Glad you're okay tonight.
Thanks.
We want to go to Sophia Thomas. I was telling you earlier, and throughout the day I've been mentioning this woman who was on the 92nd floor of Tower Number 2, walked down 92 floors, got out of there before she would have been caught up in all of it. Her name is Sophia Thomas, and she's on the line with us now. Sophia, good to talk to you. Sophia Thomas, are you with us on the phone? I guess we've just lost her on the line. That sort of thing does happen. Commissioner Safer, there are going to be a lot of stories of heroes and miracles coming out of this mess down there.
Absolutely, and not just police and firefighters. There are citizens who came out to help and who were incredibly brave, helping people get out of the World Trade Center, helping people get out of the area after the debris was falling. We know that our firefighters are here and police officers are heroes who go into danger every day, but there were incredible acts by citizens as well.
I don't know how much of this is coincidence, but they've all mounted up so much that it seems to me it's worth mentioning. These are live pictures in downtown Manhattan as we realize that this particular bombing happened 3 months to